Good morning, Breakfast Clubbers!
Good morning!
Is Al still talking? You had your chance. All right, we'll put it out here for Pat. There we go. What we're going to do today is Dave Hodges is going to say hello. We have Karen, a new friend. She's going to say hello. We have Dr. Phranq Tamburri is going to say hello.
Yeah.
Jeff Greenspan may come up and counter whatever Phranq said.
It's a cat fight in the morning.
Yeah. We have Gary Johnson is going to be, and you look at top of freedomsphoenix.com and you'll see it has more details there. But midday, like noon or something, Gary Johnson's coming in the airport, and there's a hotel down there. They got a hall, and they're going to woohoo and so on. If you guys are interested in doing that, we've been doing since last June. When Trump came down the escalator, Phranq goes, hey, man, I know what's going to happen with this Trump thing, man. You watch. So every Thursday, we've only missed probably, I don't know, like 4 or 5 Thursdays for a year. I mean, it's just been the Trump report. I mean, damn. So it's more than just Trump. It's a POTUS race in general, but focused on Trump. And Dr. Tamburri is going to give us 5-10 minutes on just, this is what's happened over and where we're at now, and after the first debate of, and then, we'll see what happens, okay? Then we have Jeff, it's always good to get him, just get up and say what's what about something. Then we'll have just a quick, Karen, she was on the show yesterday, and we got introduced to her, and we'll let her, say hello. And then hopefully by 9 o'clock, we usually try and get the main speaker by 9. We're going to try and squeeze this stuff in. And then Dave Hodges is going to scare the living crap out of us. That's his thing, And then what do we do? Yeah. And then what? Now, I might have something to say. All right. So let's go ahead and do Dr. Phranq Tamburri from The Trump Report.
Yay!
No, just got out of bed. Don't mind me. I only have opinions on Thursday morning. That's about it. That's the rest. So I don't want to speak too much today. I've spoken here some time ago, and most of you may hear the show. And I don't really want to take away from other voices. And actually, I wouldn't mind hearing Jeff in a bit, just because it's been a while. We had some nice communications on the phone. Before I talk about the Trump report, since we're kind of amongst friends here, I just wanted to officially speak to you for just a minute or two about the Senate race, about our buddy John McCain, that I guess most of you know. I ran for U.S. Senate on the Libertarian ticket, kind of endorsed by many Tea Party Republicans and the Democrats and somewhat many Libertarians, for what it's worth, taking on John McCain. Anyway, without going into that whole story, I just want to let you know how it wound up. First of all, I did receive, and I mean this heartfelt, it was an overwhelming experience, and the support I gained from numerous people, I mean many, many, many people, was overwhelming. Also, the disdain for Senator McCain was I found palpable. When this went around, I was surprised. Everyone came out of the woodwork, and it makes me even more surprised how he still pulls off 85% and still able to do it. It's like, who are these people? I'm sure this is how liberals feel about where are these Trump people? Like, where are they? I don't see any of them in Hollywood. They can't exist. They all must be figments. Anyway, I won't go into the whole machination, but in essence, the Republican Party in Arizona, it was just the Republican Party, ramroded through, just a couple years ago, a bill that makes it 2,300% more difficult for third-party, I have to be technical, mature third parties.
Libertarian.
Yeah, quote-unquote libertarians. The Green Party is not considered a mature party until next time. Then they join the fray. So they're going to be joining this club pretty soon. But they said mature third parties need to have 2,300% more signatures. And so that is what we're up against to begin with. We actually collected more than that. We collected another almost 700,000 actually signatures more. But it was a long story, but in essence, even though we collected more, they did challenge, and we lost the challenge by just a few hundred, if that, after all of these signatures. First of all, we collected more signatures than any third-party candidate for any position in the history of the state of Arizona. That's what we pulled off, which is, for what it's worth, an historic event in Arizona. means, and it wasn't all me, trust me, and it shows what this movement that is there. But nevertheless, because many of the people were independents, it turns out that if you don't officially change your registration from Democrat to an independent, let's say you're a Democrat back in your college years saving the whales, and if you don't officially change it, save the whales, Pat, there we go. And so therefore, 20 years later, if you didn't change it, then you're still technically a Republican. So every person that signs saying they're independent, the Libertarians therefore would not get that count if they were still a Republican. Whereas a Republican, if they were a Republican, they got the signature. If it was independent, many of those people were still Republicans. They didn't know it, and they got that vote too. So that actually is what ate into the count. Anyway, for that, what it's worth is that we wound up getting sued. We countersued, went to the Superior Court, and then from that point, we went to the Arizona Supreme Court, which we went all the way to there, which has been a little amusing because I've never had a parking ticket in my life, and now I have on my wall, from the Supreme Court, Dr. Phranq Tamburri versus John McCain and the entire Republican Party. So I have that to frame. So that's kind of what we take away from it. But that said, we did lose. They took us off because we were countering with a First Amendment issue. And of course, the Supreme Court, A, does not like to overturn a Superior Court decision. And two, is they don't like to deal with anything that's a freedom of choice, First Amendment issue, let's leave it there, any constitutional issue during an election year where they feel that they're up against the gun with a timeline, even though they created it and they weren't addressing the Libertarian Party's concern of the ballot access from months before. Anyway, I'm getting too much in the weeds for some of you.
Yeah,
some of those
and
of
to
you,
sum it up.
And sum it up is...
Okay, let me just...
No, I am sum it up.
Well, let me sum it. He needed 3,000 signatures. He got like 4,700. He turns them in. The Republican Party chairman representing the Republican Party and McCain sued, challenging the signatures, the blah, blah, blah. You didn't spell Phoenix out. PHX doesn't work or whatever the hell. So they challenged him, got him down. Now, normally, they already increased it like 3,000% that they wanted. Him coming on with the help and the support of the Democrats, they were like, oh, yeah. Like $60-something thousand that I know was spent on this campaign. They took it to court, and we already knew what was going to happen there. He's not on the ballot. So that was the big effort that we had, and McCain saw to it next issue.
That's not quite, that's a colorful version of it. Oh. You get the idea. So in any case, so we wound up losing officially, but what's unique about it, despite the experience and what we pulled together, is that this case will be likely used for the National Libertarian Party as they take this problem up next time to reverse this law. And the Green Party will now be a mature party and will be joining the fray. So this will be overturned as usual. It's just always after the next election cycle. So I wanted to get that out of the way for those of you that have been following it and have helped out. And it kind of disappeared for many of you because of the Trump report and then other things in my life. One of which is that September is Prostate Cancer Awareness Month, and me being a urologist, I've been busy dealing with prostates. That said, let's move on to Trump, because now that we've discussed, when I've been on the Trump report, I have not endorsed Trump, although I guess now I am because I'm wearing this damn hat, but I never endorsed him. What I did was I have supported his campaign of a basically independent run, which is what it is, as an anti-establishment candidate. For many reasons, I predicted that last year, of seeing this constellation of issues, creating this movement, whatever it is, of Tea Party, Libertarian, Independents. And we have Tea Party people, we have Bernie Sanders people, we have Alex Jones. I mean, I would love to have a debate with Alex Jones and Ernie Hancock, because you have both, and just like the Democrats, they're splitting. What is a Democrat? Republicans, they're splitting. What is a Republican? And even Libertarians. We have the Ernie Hancock as an example, and then we have Alex Jones as an example. And we want to bring in the Glenn Beck Libertarian, which we're still eating, I know. I don't want to get into that. And he's done, by the way. We played that on the show, which is good. But it's interesting how we have Libertarians that both support, but we're coming from two different perspectives. And what that perspective is, I believe, is this issue of anti-establishment. What trumps what, no pun intended, is it the philosophy and just jumping to the end and the cultural change, which, for instance, Mr. Hancock, of course, supports, or is it using this anti-establishment movement, maybe with a flawed character, but someone who is despised by the establishment of the Democrats, despised by the establishment of the media, and despised by the establishment of the Republicans, and to me, that's my guy. All right, and as long as the way I see it is, yes, he might make some mistakes along the way. He's not my ideal guy. However, as long as that person supports the Second Amendment and means it, then we as people still have the reset switch to reverse whatever stupidity he might be able to do. What scares me is anyone on the other side that would have their version of this movement to take away the guns. That's the concern if it's a wild card. To me, I don't care what it is, if they have the firearms, at least that's one way. I know many people might disagree, but seeing this as long as I have, I'm a second generation libertarian, kind of like Peter Schiff, sort of like people that have been through this for a while, like Rand Paul, and many of us wind up becoming more Tea Party Republicans for that reason. I know it's different. People are more ideologues. Some people are more pragmatic. Regardless, we're all doing the same thing. But that being said, that's what's going with as far as with Trump in general. This morning, I'm not going to read them, but I couldn't believe here on KTR News, I counted a record now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, all the red anti-Trump news stories, all within about 2 hours from this morning. Now, I know, trust me, he kind of puts his foot in his mouth on his own. He adds to his own problem.
No.
But I have never seen, ever, we all talk about media bias, and one time Ernie even said, is that news media bias? No, but when you're immersed in it, because I'm watching this crap every morning and every day and getting nauseous with MSNBC and Fox and everything else, to see it from so many angles that many of us have tuned out from the media years ago, but being forced to watch it for Ernie's show and to be part of this, it's overwhelming to see that they have taken the gloves off. They don't even care anymore about you knowing how biased it is. And the one thing I'll mention with Ernie has said over and over, which is the real, and by the way, I'm rambling real quick because I know I'm trying to finish this up for you. And I didn't have a lot of sleep, so I'm a little rambling here. But the thing is that with this report, we've also been showing about how is he, well, I'll just skip that. I'll skip that. As far as with the media, I find that the media is overwhelmingly showing its cards as the squeaky wheel has the oil. And I think, as Ernie has pointed out many times, is that it doesn't matter about what you really believe. It's, do you think that your neighbor believes something, right? Hopefully I'm wording it properly, Ernie. Which is that, if they can convince you that your neighbor doesn't like X candidate, or your neighbor is in favor of the media and Hollywood, then you might change your vote against your own principles if you think your neighbor will. That's really the key. And so they're throwing everything between the Avengers actors and Robert Downey Jr., between every newspaper, including the Arizona Republic, which, by the way, I wrote an obituary, which they're not publishing, which I said that the Arizona Republic is now dead. And I put it in their obituary section of the newspaper. $137, I added an image to it. Oh, you should have posted it up there. It's really nice. And I talked about the survivors, which are the last Gannett newspapers that they still own, and the whole bit. But anyway, they're trying to overwhelm us that all of our neighbors and everyone in the media is against him, and yet they cannot get to that silent majority that is finally awoken. It may not be us that they're going after, or that they're Republicans, or that even Trump doesn't necessarily need all of our votes. He's going after people who have not voted in election cycle after election cycle. Farmers, people out there that have clept out 20 years, and they've been gone for so long, they don't even show up in the new polls. So it's people that have disappeared for all this time. Those are the voters that are coming back. And all they want to know is this guy as crazy as everybody is saying? And if he's not, then I'll pull the lever because we need a change of some kind. If he is, this bread and butter type of Americans will say, no, he's too unsafe. It's almost like, guys, and I'll end on this, it's almost like you have these two children that have been, or maybe you guys have kids, two kids that keep arguing and, mom, dad, he yelled at me first, back and forth. And after 20 years, 50 years, the mother or the father finally wakes up, is tired of the noise, comes down, the mature, silent majority, bread and butter, farmer America comes down and says, all right, we're now coming back into this decision. And that to me is what's happening. It's the American culture, it's the deep Americana that's coming back. I think it's beautiful to see however this turns out, whatever new parties come out of this. And this whole libertarian, Fox News, CNN, all this that we've been fighting, and all the details and the emails that all of us can talk all day about, it just doesn't matter, to use Ernie's case, when it comes to the people that Trump is bringing out and who will make the decision in this choice. I'm fascinated to find out what it will be. Trump Report's part of it, and I'm sure we all have our own opinions with it, and regardless, it'll be a wild ride. So anyway, thank you again, Lisa, for the few minutes I had, and good morning.
And I'm sure we're going to have, some conversation at the end. I did want to recognize Lisa. Go ahead and introduce yourself and your website real quick and tell them what you do so they can put a face to something.
Lisa Haven. I have a YouTube channel, kind of do the same stuff as you somewhat, just getting the word out. But just Google Lisa Haven on YouTube and you're good to go.
Lisa Haven. She was introduced to us. She was on the show yesterday.
I never
Dave
met her.
Hodges
She does
said
outstanding
hello.
reports, though. So
Oh, yeah.
kudos.
Very good report, yeah.
Jeff, give an opinion. Okay, and I got to prep Jeff while he's coming up. Okay, one, how many of you know who Jim Sharp is? He's a morning show at KTAR now. He bounces around. We've always been kind of supportive of him. In the late 90s, he was, when I had my restaurant, I remember I was on his show, and he calls me during lunch, and he goes, and I was on the night before and on an issue stuff, and he goes, hey, Ernie, it's Jim Sharp. I go, you the man. You the man. He goes, what? I go, constitutionalist. You think I can't recognize a libertarian? His rhetoric and what he was saying on air, I'm going, this guy's a closet libertarian. You've been reading books or something. He goes, yeah, that's why I called. I wanted to know if I could ride up with you to the Prescott Libertarian State Convention. I go, that's what I thought, So we've been good friends since. We helped him whenever he would move or he wanted to get the morning gig. He was a night host at KFYI. And he goes, yeah, I'd really like to get that morning show on KFYI. I go, not a problem, got taken care of. What? So Bob Anderson and I made a bunch of signs that said, vote Jim Sharp. Something. It was vote Jim Sharp, vote Jim Sharp. And we put them all downtown. Then we called the newspaper and said, he should be fired. He can't campaign and be on the radio. He should be fired. Somebody should fire him. And we just kept calling all the shows. And they're just being real buttheads. And it made an article in the newspaper, and he got the gig. He was the new morning show. So the woman that was the producer that produced for Charles Goyette and her and KFYI went on to work at New York on WABC. And they went to WABC, I think where Stern was at the time or something. Anyway, they went, she called me, and she asked me, she goes, was that you? I go, not as far as you know. They go, yeah, that was good. That was good. I go, yeah. So Jim has been a good friend. What happened when the Arizona Republic endorsed Hillary Clinton? Jim Sharp went on MSNBC just yesterday or the day before. And I saw him up there, and he was just like, yeah, it's kind of the rag. He's just really dumping on the Republic. So I called him, and I said, hey, man, you need to come on the show. And he goes, yeah, we can get you in for 5 minutes. I go, no, I don't care. No, I want you on my show, okay? So he's like, okay, we're just going to do a 2 hour, at least an hour or more podcast. No commercial interruptions or anything. We're just, because his hour is the same show as mine, can't do it live. So we're gonna have some fun. He goes, yeah, I might get in trouble for this one. Let's do it. And I'm like, all right, so we'll do that. Then we had a story up on the front page today. Susan Sarandon has been, hip-locked and lip-locked to freaking Hillary forever, okay? So they're all buds and everything, but she came out on the Late Show with Stephen Colbert. She was on with the 60 Minutes. Everybody will listen to her about how she's broken up with Hillary and she sucks and she doesn't do it and she's war and all, just really dumped all over her, but you're not hearing it. They have culled the net of this. It is gone. The other thing is there's so much manipulation, and I know that Phranq and I go on about, I'm like, duh, but let me tell you the one that I get, this one, this is good. It was Labor Day, and Trump said something about, I'll talk about birth certificate. Yeah, man, I'll give you some, the easy meat. Come on, red meat, man, come over here. And ooh, CNN's got the cameras and they're all ready. Well, what he had done is instead of talking about that, he had all these Medal of Honor winners, on some Veteran Day or something, doing whatever it was. So you guys remember that? And they kind of rickrolled the media. Well, let me tell you what was the real rickroll. This is awesome. You can't find this image on the... I knew I should have took a screen capture as the video was up, and now you can't see the video. And I just kicking myself. I knew I should have done it. And I go, nah, it'll be up there. There's no way they're going to hide this. They're at the airport showing Trump's plane. Trump. 20 minutes of Trump or waiting on Trump or talking in the room, kind of see him going, get some, and he's going to tell him we're going to really expose kind of Trump. Trump's plane. Finally, they get out of the plane and they get into all the black SUVs, and it's like, yeah, that rich man, he's got his own plane, Trump on it, Trump. And as they're panning, they pan across 2 Hillary Clinton full-size jets. Okay? So Hillary doesn't have one, she has 2 jets. Now she might have 5 for all I know, but she had 2 jets. So as they're doing all this and they're bashing the crap, it's like 20 minutes of the rich man Trump and what a scumbag Trump playing Trump. And as they're doing this, 2 Hillary planes. I mean, right next to it. Plane. And they're like this, and he goes, are you freaking kidding me? I want that picture. Because you get, as he pulled out and did this, you had Trump, 2 Hillary jets. You go on image search on the internet for that, and you can't find it. I mean, I'm like, are you kidding me? And I saw this before. It was during the Republican debates where Carly Fiorina was up there running. Now, Carly Fiorina, she was head of Hewlett-Packard. When 9/11 happened, she's turning around 18-wheelers to go give servers to the NSA and the CIA, and she's in with the trusted program module, the management of the internet of Clipper chip of We Rule You. And this has been inside the intelligence community. Carla Fiorina is ruled by the scientific technological elite. The military-industrial complex was just a side effect of what Eisenhower was talking about. He's going, what the real problem is being ruled by the scientific technological elite, of which Carly Fiorina was front and center, and I won't get some. When you looked up for images for her during the campaign and debates, as I do Freedom's Phoenix, we have like 50 articles a day. And we put them up there, and I'm looking for an image search on her. And it's her like this, her like this, her like this at a podium. That's all you see. And she ran for U.S. Senate in California. She was in the NSA, CIA little team or whatever the heck. She's been Republican, blah, blah, blah. She was on McCain's campaign as an advisor. All of this, and you get nothing but headshots at a podium. How does that happen? The same way you don't see 2 Hillary planes in Trump. That's how.
Ernie, or the two planes, I just figured out, it's for Hillary's body double. That's why.
Score. This is, and then building up to the debate, I could see it a week before I started saying it on the air. I'm going, oh, I know what's going on. It's a psyop. Made you look. Will she be able to stand? I don't know. She's kind of wobbly. There she goes, and everybody's watching. They don't even know what the hell they're saying. They just want to see if she's standing up. She's going to die on stage. Made you look. Monday Night Football. I made you look. And it was a high-scoring game, too. We had it out here, and we had it inside, and it wound up both day. We didn't watch the game, and then I find out it's 42-30 something. But I got my high school grandson game last night, high score, and they won 1 point last, kind of, it's great. Real football. Okay. Jeff Greenspan. Introduce yourself.
I'm a little high maintenance, so I apologize for this. But if you guys are recording, would you mind turning it off just for a few minutes?
I meant to say this earlier, but I was tired and I kind of finished up quick. A lot of people helped me with that Senate campaign, and I just want to mention, I forgot to mention, and it's not just because he said something nice earlier, but Jeff Greenspan here, we had a few debates on the air a long time ago, and yet still when my campaign was against the ropes because of this whole, challenge, and Andre Garcia and Jeff Greenspan, out of the blue, when he was contacted, stepped up to the plate with his 3 kids screaming in the background, and he read all of my long texts and helped immensely. And, all of us have talents that we don't always see each other outside of these meetings, and I just wanted to point out that it's nice to see all of us in our milieu outside of sometimes this group, and really there's a lot of help with Jeff. And yes, these hormones go right into your DNA. They manipulate your DNA at the most fundamental level, even testosterone and melatonin, and what they're playing around with as well, Phranq and food. So, very important.
What we had was some big financial supporters of all our efforts. They had met Judy Mikovits, Dr. Judy Mikovits in Northern California. And we were vacationing up in Washington State with them and so on. They said, you got to have, this person on your show. Well, of course, the answer is always yes, and, whatever they say. But they always have really good, people. Anybody they suggest, they're top end. Well, we had her on. I was so impressed with her that I said, we can do a summit around you. And it was called the Vaccine Education Summit. And because she's so prominent, a lot of the other activists, they got very prominent other speakers. We had like 5 or 6 people that were up there, and the only reason Phranq wasn't one of the speakers because he had to go to a conference in San Diego or something, and he suggested another local guy. But what happened was, at the end of that, we got the tape that Terry Major's working on now. He'll have them starting to come out this next week. You watch him, he'll scare the crap out of you. And it was so profound. My daughter, when she had her 4 or 5-year-old granddaughter, she was bleeding out really bad. Uterus was ripped all the crap. She had another child since, she's okay, but she was bleeding out so much that she had 23 units of blood. I think they found out later it was a 27. You only have 6. So they just totally, and she said if it was before 2011, or they had not cleaned up the blood supply, there's a way of doing it, and they weren't doing it. And she goes, I guarantee she's got, blah, 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 and blah. Well, she reread her book, listened to the show that we did. It's called Plague. And it's about how they're using these different viruses and these immunizations, and even if you don't get immunized, but you get somebody that was immunized blood and all this kind of stuff. We even did a cartoon that has, any of you remember Saturday Night Live with the Bass-O-Matic of Dan Aykroyd? Yes. It was like, it was Ronco with a Bass-O-Matic, and you put a bass in it, So the artist that does our art did one with the Mouse-O-Matic that's going into this process and come vaccine and giving it to a baby. Because what they do is they run these different, not vaccines, viruses through other animals. A lot of them are mice. And they just puree the brains and so on, and it goes into, and this is how she's like, and she came at it from chronic fatigue syndrome, but she thinks this malady my daughter has, just kind of low energy, always, pains and stuff. And she goes, I know what she's got. She had 23 units of blood, I guarantee. So they're going through the steps right now. She's going to cure my daughter. Yay. Now the thing is she was a scientist studying this from what they were talking about. How the viruses, and they call them, not protoviruses or retroviruses. The retroviruses, this was discovered when they were doing the research on AIDS in the early 80s. She was one of the scientists that came out and she goes, I see what's going on. They're manipulating our DNA. All this immune stuff that's going on, they're just getting low-hanging fruit and infecting everybody in the 3rd generation of Phranq people. And she could see what they were doing and how it was expressing itself. Because your DNA, if it has the virus that goes in and tricks your DNA into making more of it, but it expresses some genes in there that is like why we evolve to our environment. When things happen, it'll turn on something that we got, green hair to survive the toxic, whatever the hell. I mean, it's always something. Well, this is what's happening right now. Well, she's from a geneticist, immunologist, electron microscope of DNA kind of scientist, and we knew this, a lot of it we've been covering early because our senior editor, Pal Gamble, that died this summer. Pal died in end of May, and he got a lot of props from the national convention and on the site and everything, so we're missing Pal. But a lot of people don't know our senior editor, Freedom's Phoenix, was the Terrobiorism lab manager at the Arizona Department of Health for years. He was there buying all the big giant equipment the FBI said you had to have. I mean, he was going through, he was a DNA guy. And he goes, let me tell you what's happening. So this is stuff that we knew. It's just that you have to get the movie. Well, there's another one called Trace Amounts. And I asked him, I go, is this the movie? Is this it? This one should be kind. I go, what you really need to see is Trace Amounts. And it was a 29-year-old guy, structural engineer. He had a tetanus shot. Boom, it gave him autism. He's like, what the heck is going on? He's seeing tracers, all kinds of stuff's happening. So he documented it. And he's looking for a cure. And he's traveling around. And he went, and all the stuff that's exposed in this movie, plus a lot more. And I went, holy crap. So we're going to do a compilation video that by the end of the year and beginning of legislative session, we're going to be real buttheads. So this is way deeper. And they always go to me, and then we'll get to Dave here, and let me make this point. Ernie, do you really think they'd do that? A lot of you that listen to the show, I go, I don't know, can they? Can they maintain, enhance, expand their intrusiveness and control over the individual to rule you better? I don't know, can they? Well, then they are. Because there's not a moral hurdle for them to get over to. They wouldn't let's don't do election fraud because that would be wrong. I mean, This mentality, once you get that, mind fog starts to clear. All you have to do is ask yourself, can they physically do this thing that would benefit? Can they? Are they short of money? Laws, time, patience, people? We're under assault. So the things that Dave Hodges have done, he's got awoken back in the early 2000s or something, and or before, and we met. He started writing on Freedom's Phoenix and quickly went on to his own thing. That showed a lot of popularity. Common Sense show. We were on the same radio station for a while. We were on a network together, and I was the black sheep. They were like, how fast could they get rid of me? They like take that for a year and a half or so. Because the first show I did, the owner of the network had me on his show, and he goes, "What do you mean you don't vote?" I go, "You're still voting? If you think voting's going to make the change, you haven't been paying attention." But Dave Hodges definitely has had an opinion that is very popular on the show. It's always one of the highest, as you see here. Dave's going to show up, people come. All right? Well, you're going to find out why. Dave Hodges.
That's funny.
How long did he stay?
I don't know.
Want to introduce a friend of mine, and he was a colleague, Ernie and I, at the same network. Mike, say hi.
How you doing? Michael Herzog, The American Awakening. Nice to meet all you guys.
We know who you're talking about, Ernie. And we couldn't
Very
agree.
well, Ernie.
We couldn't agree with you more, but we're on camera, right? So I'm not going to say anything. Does he have a lawyer yet? Inside story. I wasn't going to talk about this, but I'm going to mention it. You're talking about the assault on our DNA. And Ernie, you also mentioned too about when I woke up. I was born awake because my dad was in naval intelligence, and he'd be gone forever. And he also worked with, as I found out, the last 2 years of his life, where I knew nothing about what he did except where he worked.
Is that volume good?
Could be a little higher.
Okay.
Yeah.
He worked at, they retired him 6 months early after he put nukes on a lot of the ships in the Navy. He did the rewiring of the combat information centers. And they put him to work at Martin Marietta, full retirement, 6 months early, got out though. And found out the last 2 years of his life when he was terminal, and I used to visit him every night, that he was working with scientists that we'd captured from Germany. And he said they were 100, maybe 300 years ahead of us in some areas. And he became a project manager and oversaw 4 different developments. So he kind of saw the broad spectrum rather than the compartmentalized view that you get so much of when you do intelligence work. And he filled me in on a lot. So, I can't say I was unarmed in this. And that was back in 84 and 85. And then I read a book, and it was actually about 2 years before that. Pat Wood, who's been here many times, he's a good friend of mine. He co-wrote a book with Anthony Sutton called Trilaterals Over Washington. And I had one of those holy crap moments when I read that book, because I'd heard enough of the politics in my house, even though it was much more subtle, that I thought things aren't the way they're supposed to be. Well, go figure, Ernie. Can you believe that? So, I had this awakening, but my life was working. I loved sports and grew up playing them, and I coached basketball and football and went on to coach college basketball. And when your life is working, you sometimes don't really pay attention to what's under the covers. And so what ended up happening to me, and Ernie knows this story all too well, we had moved out to what we thought would be our retirement home, and we're about 8 miles northwest of Whitman. And there's about 300 families over several dozen square miles out there. And we thought, hey, this is nice. No street lights, no stoplights. The nearest store is 15 miles away. They're just going to leave us alone. The saying Ernie likes is, there are those who want to be left alone, and there are those that won't leave you alone. Well, we learned that saying is very true, because the forces John McCain showed up and said, you guys are living too close to an Air Force base. And we knew that was Bravo Sierra. We were 25 miles north of Luke, and the planes had to fly 25 miles over 250,000 people, we figured, to get to us. And then one night I had an epiphany. I'm looking at a map, and I'm looking at 4 encumbered areas that had completely lost their property rights, and they were trying to force us off our land, because if we'd had a fire in the kitchen, couldn't have got a permit to repair. So we'd have been paying that mortgage while you're out of the house and wherever else you're living. And we kind of figured out, gee, maybe this Canamex thing has something to do with this. And I confronted McCain's people at the Capitol. They were, you should have seen their eyes get this big. They could not believe that we had figured this out. And at the time, I was teaching statistics at Real Salado College, so I put my handiwork to work on this, and I calculated the odds of this all being chance, 65 million to 1. So I knew right then that we had a problem. That's when I found Ernie, and then the late Pete Peterson up in Wickenburg had me on a show a number of times to talk about this, and he said, Dave, you need a show. And before Pete sold and pretty quickly passed away, we'd actually picked up some affiliates, and we were growing. And then new people came in and ran the station into the ground that no longer exists. And that's when Mike and I ended up together over at Republic. And Ernie was there for a brief time, pretty brief time. I should have been,
a year.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I was there 6. So I come by this honestly, and you have to get kicked in the teeth, I think, a lot of times to become awake. And as Ernie said one of the last times I was here, they pissed Dave Hodges off and he hasn't forgotten about it. And that's really pretty much the truth. When I was involved in our property rights battle, someone stuck a microphone in front of my face in a hotel banquet room, and I made the mistake of talking about the Constitution. And they go, oh, you're the spokesperson. And I didn't want to do that at the time, but that's how I got kind of roped into doing all this. So coming forward here and talking about 2 things I heard here that I thought were really interesting. I know what I write's controversial, but I also write from the heart. And what I put on paper, I can't say I'm 100% right, but I really try to get things right. And I really do try to verify. And I am lucky enough to have a number of really good sources behind the scenes who have told me things like Benghazi and how close we came to having a military coup over that ended up being true. But I try to verify all that with, collaborating sources. But we are in one heck of a mess, and I never thought we'd be here at this time. I thought this was going to be a battle that we're all facing right now that my son's generation would have to fight. I for a long time, I just didn't see it coming this fast, but it's like a freight train going at the speed of light, what's coming at us right now. And we're not going to have real long, in my estimation, to communicate with each other and to people who we need to wake up in the ways that we're doing it. And I'm not saying that communication will stop, but we're going to be challenged to be getting around the censorship we're going to face. I'll give you an example. I told this story. In fact, actually at the urging of my friend Doug Hagman, he said, Dave, you need to tell that story about how you got started and how you got into broadcasting. And he said, let that serve as an example for other people. They may not go into broadcasting, but they can get out there and do something. And so I told the story. I made a podcast out of it. YouTube promptly banned it for daring to tell America the lessons we learned about how to save your property rights. They banned that. Facebook, I was in the middle of publishing to 5 groups. I was on my 5th group, and Facebook stepped in and stopped me. They get to you quick. I mean, we're talking like a 3-minute, I'm uploading this, and they came in and just shut that down. And I had Gary Haven on my show in the same time frame, and he's one of the executive producers of the movie Amerigeddon, which I'm sure a lot of you saw. And Gary and I have gotten to be pretty good friends, and he had sources within the Trump campaign, and I think this might have been some of the stumbling we saw from Trump. Trump was told, according to Gary and his sources, that they may use an EMP to take down the election if Trump is leading and they don't feel they can cheat enough to steal the election. And I think that explains a little the demeanor I saw, because he certainly was passive and unaggressive, at least from a Trump perspective. And what happened the day after I did the interview and I put the podcast up on YouTube, well, they promptly banned it. And I don't know how they found it, because I know they don't go in and listen to all the words. It said on the title, The Common Sense Show, Hour Number 2, September 25th, 2016. And that thing got banned within 90 minutes of being up there. It's amazing how quick they are to get to you. They're going to get all of us in terms of communication. Facebook is becoming increasingly more draconian. You can have an assassinate Donald Trump page, but you can't say anything about Hillary or they'll shut your account down for 30 days. You look at what's going on the internet. The day after Gary Haven was on and I ran the recorded version of our interview on my website. My website went down for 3 hours. We had, and believe me, I'm not bragging, I just want to talk to you about what they want to prevent. We had, by noon that day, 100,000 views of that website, and it went down between 1 and 4 p.m. local time. And I've got the best web people in the business. They do Steve Quayle, Doug Hagman. I mean, they have all the big ones. And I'm talking Nitro Host and Daniel Clausen and CyberX Media. These guys are the best there is in the business. And they tell me, our guys never get taken down. Well, I got taken down. They didn't want that information out. And now we know about ICANN. What's going to happen with ICANN? They're not sitting still. Somebody sent me an email.
Tell who I can.
ICANN is loosely a division of the UN that's taking over the internet. And Obama has sent them the codes and the who is data. I got an email from a guy who has a website, and it was a questionnaire from ICANN 3 days before the transfer of power, which took place today. 3 days before, and they want him to verify all his unfair. They didn't even wait for the official start date. They can't wait to get their hooks into us and to censor us. We're going to be challenged here because, well, let's go back and talk about YouTube. Before I get into ICANN, let's talk about what YouTube's going to do. YouTube is instituting this thing called the Hero Program. And they're recruiting trolls as young as 13 years old to go from site to site to site. They're not necessarily looking for F-bombs or nudity or other inappropriate stuff. What they're looking for is stuff that they don't agree with of the liberal millennials that run the YouTube site. And if they flag you, you get no appeal, you get no nothing, and if you get flagged 3 times, your site is deleted. So it's not going to be long until people like me and probably Lisa, we're going to be off YouTube entirely. Now, one of the things I've been working with the Before It's News people on is I've been talking to Mike Roach, who serves in the role as executive director, and Chris Kitsey, who's the owner of Before It's News, that we need to do and get back into the video platform business. But then again, that presumes the internet's still going to be here too, and that's the hesitation that I know Chris has with regard to doing this, because he's not sure how long we're going to be up, and I'm not either. But I look at it this way, I'm more philosophical. In 1776, when Boston was effectively under martial law, you still had the committees of correspondence. You still had Thomas Paine writing what he was writing. They still were sneaking out of Boston through the military roadblocks set up by the British and communicating with the other colonists, and they were able to rally enough support that they were able to overthrow the man of the day. And that would be King George. But we're going to be challenged here, and we need to be putting our heads together. What's our plan B when we lose Facebook, YouTube, and the internet as a whole when we go down? And I wished I had answers, but I know this much about technology. You know, I have a kid that uploads my YouTube videos because I haven't taken the time to learn how to do it yet. So these solutions are not going to come from me. They're going to come from all of us collectively. And I'm challenging all of us here because we're all kind of like missionaries of the truth here. This is not your typical audience. In fact, Lisa asked me about the Arizona Breakfast Club. And she said, I said, when I was describing you guys, she said, well, what are they? And I said, they are hardcore activists. I said, I don't think there's another group like this in the country. And I network with people all over the country, and I talk to these groups, and I go on their radio shows, and there's nothing like this around the country. And I told Lisa this, we're getting the solutions to the problem that we're going to have with extreme censorship has got to come from groups like this. And actually, I think it's got to be this group. And we have enough talent. We have enough talent.
What, I clapped in to see one of those pie makers? I just want to know.
Well, we have enough talent here to pull this off. But also, we may need to go to alternatives that aren't quite as effective numerically. But the thing is I think we'll have more help. It's not like I've got to reach my 2.2 million people a month, because by the time that this administration and what follows this monstrosity into office, by the time they solidify the next administration, they're going to make so many people angry that will have converts coming out of your ears. I want to go back and I just talk about my web numbers for a minute, and I'll tell you why they are the way they are. A year ago, I was lucky if I got 500,000 visitors to the website. That's still not bad. You know, right now in the last 2 weeks,
500,000 a day?
500,000 for the month,
Okay,
which is
you gotta tell me here, man.
Okay, well, I'll tell you this. We're on a pace for the last 15 days to hit about 3.33 million. And I'm not doing anything different other than a few podcasts, and I got an app now. But that's not bringing well over 1.5 million people to my
You
site.
need a Freedom's Phoenix banner ad, man.
Send it over. Send it over. I'll give you the details. I don't even know. My webmaster does all that. Look at the banners on my website. Tell me what size you want, and I'll put it up. But look, I'm not doing anything different. I didn't all of a sudden discover how to write better this summer. I didn't discover how to look into things better this summer. People are pissed off, and they're tired of the bullcrap. That's about as blunt as I can put it. And I got people coming to me that didn't ever know the difference between a free agent and a free trade agreement. But they know now. And they know now because of groups like this, because we've been pounding this message since I've been associated with Freedom's Phoenix better than anybody in the country. And now, all of a sudden, the worm has turned and people are paying attention. In fact, I'm going to give you a little social psychology research here to show you how effective we are, where this is going, and why Obama had to turn the internet over today. There was a group called SNARC, and it's an acronym, and I don't remember what it stands for, SNARC. And they do research for social psychology, and what they found was that when a group of committed followers grows to 10% of the population, that movement takes off like wildfire. Well, I'm going to tell you, my website is a barometer of that principle. This is what we're seeing right now. I talked to John Rappaport recently, and also Mike Adams, and I asked him, I said, how are your numbers, guys? Oh, going through the roof, Dave, just going through the roof. And they're not doing anything different either. It's that people are finally seeing through the charade. But address the election thing. And I'm kind of with Ernie, and I'll go back to the old Ernie that used to hang up the still voting LOL signs. Remember those?
With a question mark.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Beaver been dead.
I was dumb enough to think then if we could get enough people, we could change things. You know, look, let's assume, for the sake of argument, let's assume Donald Trump is sincere. Okay, I think he probably is, but if I told you I'm 100% convinced, I'd be lying to you. But let's assume he's 100% sincere. Let's assume all the dirty tricks the Democrats are doing to get Hillary elected or whoever will take her place if she can't continue. Let's assume that he's overcome all that. He gets into office. Do you think that these corporations, these banksters, the CIA, and all the other corrupt minions that serve these people, they're all of a sudden going to respect election results and obey the rule of law? You know, Mike Adams, I interviewed him recently, and he said, the next 100 days, Dave, he said, if it doesn't go the way that the globalists want, we're going to have holy hell. And if Trump has the election stolen from him, we're going to have holy hell. I don't need to tell you the importance of being prepared. And you may have noticed a message in what I've been writing. I could be writing about how to train your dog, but it'll end up being prepping in the last paragraph. Because right now, you know, America needs to realize things pretty quickly are going to come to a grinding halt. It's either going to be our side that does it, or it's going to be the other side that does it. And I don't think we're going to get out of this without a fight. And I've never, ever advocated for violence, but I do believe in self-defense. And I think we're approaching the day when we're going to have to defend ourselves. I'm one of those guys that in 1771 to 1775, I would have been a loyalist who was really mad at the king. But when enough happened and you could see where it was going, then you jump ship. I was hoping we could resolve this more through, you know, spiritual means, you know, through collective action, raising general awareness. That's not going to happen. Either, I don't care if 90% of the country comes to the side that thinks more like we think collectively, we're still going to have a fight. These corporations have had their way with us with the free trade agreements that have sucked tens of millions of jobs and trillions of dollars out of this economy and wrecked cities like Detroit. Now, people don't remember this, and I had to read this in a history book, but back in the 1960s, Detroit was the second wealthiest city in North America.
I'm from Detroit.
Yeah, then you know this all too well.
I'm a tool and die maker. I lived through the outsourcing. Had to change several employers to stay employed. I watched it, lived it, been there, saw it. Detroit was wonderful at one time. You know what it is now.
It's they're tearing down entire neighborhoods in Detroit.
But as you look at Detroit, you look at possibly the future of our country. We go on.
It's a bellwether.
Don't interrupt him, go.
I've said
Sorry.
often, no, I appreciate that.
Sorry.
There's nothing like an eyewitness to verify what I've read in history books.
Oh, God.
But, Detroit now, I actually coached a kid from Detroit. And man, did he need help academically. And his mom, the nurse told me, she said, the classes are 5 minutes long and the pizza breaks are 60 minutes long. And you really look at what's happened to that city. The police department's closed. They have banker's hours. Now, you might get help if you call 911, but you can't walk in and file a report after 5 p.m. And this is how bad it is. And the UN's controlling their water. I don't know how aware you are of this. Their water is polluted, and the UN's doing nothing about it. Thanks to Obama. He'll bail out GM, but he wouldn't bail out Detroit. That kind of tells you where this is all headed. I mean, we are the enemy. We are the terrorists. And they are indeed coming for us. And no matter how paranoid that sounds, and if I'd have said this 5 years ago, I'd have check myself in, take a little Xanax, and calm down. But listen, when they write, when David Spangler writes things like, the only way to the New World Order is through taking a pledge to Lucifer, when he writes that, and when, go back to 97, almost 20 years ago, and Ted Turner told Audubon magazine we need to reduce the population by 90%. I'm sorry, but when people write this stuff and they're in positions of power, I believe them. I'm not going to sit here and try to dissect, well, maybe they made this. No, they mean it. When they say it, they mean it. And back to what was said about our DNA, and what a fascinating point this is. And I want to share something with you that I didn't know what to make of it when I heard about it. 1993, I'm listening to the Art Bell show for the first time. First time ever. And on it was a guy named Vance Davis, who used to be deep cover, NSA. I don't know if you guys have heard of Vance. Vance and I became very good friends. And I'm listening to him talking and thinking, oh my God, I bet he knows my father. And by this time, my dad had passed, but I had a real good idea of some of the things he did. And Vance is saying just enough. I'm saying they're on parallel paths here. So I found a way to contact Vance, and then I'll bring this back to the DNA. He didn't contact me. A guy named Bill Pollock did, who did contract work with the CIA. His wife, Annie DeRiso, was my news director for 6 years. So Bill and I became very, very close. Bill was actually friends with my father, and after my dad left working at Martin Marietta, that we call Lockheed Martin today, he went to work at Sunstrand Electric working on killer satellites. You know how one satellite can take out another in space. And Bill was working on that project with, they even played on the company softball team together. Now I was about like this, so I didn't remember, but he remembered me. And Bill eventually introduced me to Vance, and then I started the trek of every Saturday I would drive from my home in Glendale to Mesa, where Vance lived, and he would give me the download of NSA training. Let me cut to the chase here. What you're hearing about the DNA is true. What these people were taught in their initiation of being NSA agents was that there's been a war going on in the cosmos, and they were told in these words, between good and evil. And I made him repeat it, because I didn't want to get it wrong, between good and evil. And he said that has come here to the earth. They would love to get a hold of our soul and morph it, to basically slap the face of God, but they can't figure out how to do that with the soul. Now remember, this is from NSA training, and I believe Vance because he's proven his credibility over the years. And he told me, he said, if they can't figure out how to do that, and I don't think they will, he said they're going to morph human beings. This was 1995 that Vance told me this. The word transhumanism wasn't even in our lexicon. No one was talking about this except Vance Davis was talking about it. But he didn't call it that. So when you talk about what's happening here with regarding the morphing of our DNA, you're 110% right. And I've heard this now for over 20 years, and I know it's true. And I know what they have planned for us is they're going to be, if you read the transhumanism stuff, and actually Pat Wood is the better guy to talk on this than I am, but they talk about how these elite are going to be super intelligent by artificial means, have extra long lifespans, and they may even achieve immortality. by escaping their bodies into some receptacle. And there's enough of this in print you can go read. And this is what's behind a lot of the things you see with Google Glass and all these technological developments. Meanwhile, they're withholding a lot of medical technology from you and I. I've had discussions with these health researchers from Cal Berkeley, and this goes back 7-8 years ago. And they worked on kilometers about lengthening them because they degrade every 7 years. And this is what causes the aging process to set in. And that GMOs are actually enhancing the degradation of this. And they were looking for ways to lengthen it. They actually have commercial products now that they're selling. I can't believe they're getting away with doing this without the FDA shutting them down. But they actually felt naturally we should be living to be about 120. That was their estimate. But they said, you know, our environment's so toxic that we're not able to achieve that. So we get about 25 to 30% cut off our lifespan. And I think we're looking at that being a lot lower. If you talk to people who really know transhumanism, as I get to, I think they're going to put a ceiling on us at years of age. They're going to have whoever they decide will be the 10% that survives, and to serve them, they're going to have short lifespans. And they're going to be genetically dumbed down. They're going to be programmed to have lower IQs because just like Rockefeller and Carnegie said when they helped start the public schools, we want people smart enough to do their jobs, but not so smart that they'll question authority. So we'll certainly see a degradation of the human race in that regard. I mean, when I look at it, and I don't talk about this much because this really isn't my avenue, but I heard it today and I wanted to mention, I'm exposed to this a lot. And I have a lot of guests that have come on my show and have talked about this very knowledgeably. And if you're not familiar with Pat Wood's book, you should get his book called Technocracy. It's incredible, and he lays it out. Hey, what's coming? Step 1,
Rising.
Step 2, Step 3. Yeah, Technocracy Rising. But this is something you just heard about morphing the DNA. You know, I can't tell you how much I believe this to be a fact. So this is really what I wanted to communicate with you today was about the censorship part. And I kind of got off on a tangent with the other thing, but I think it's important because it defines, you know, what we're facing. I mean, we're talking about the extinction of the human race as we understand what a human is. 10% of us surviving to be some morphed creature of lower abilities is not the survival of our species.
If you go 5-10 more minutes, we'll have time for questions for you.
Okay. Well, you know what? I think I pretty well have said what I wanted to say. It just look, a lot of you have really supported my work through the last several years, and I really appreciate that. And I feel like this is home when I come here because this is where I got my teeth cut into these subjects. You know, thanks to the opportunity that Ernie gave me. And I'll say this too, and I've said this before here. If it wasn't for Ernie's help in helping us procure legal representation that we tried to get for almost 8 years, and that John McCain's people kept blocking because you want to be a judge? John might be president someday. You'll never be a judge if you defend these people. And Ernie got me hooked up with the Goldwater Institute. And had that not happened, you know, we might have had a different outcome where we are. So Ernie, I want to say thank you again for that. That's something I'll never forget. I'm always supporting people like Dave Hodges.
We'll go ahead and have a sit for a second because I mean, what I'm going to do is, you know, because I get to address some of the stuff that, you know, while I was thinking that I wanted to share with you, I mean, while he was talking. And then I'm going to go in the crowd. And those of you, I'm probably just going to hit everybody. We'll just go real quick. And no speeches, and you know who you are, and your initials are, you know, Pat. Anyway, so this is, say who you are, you know, why you're here, what you just, you know, if it's more than 30 seconds, and I hold the mic, I'm Phil Donahue, okay? So I'll just pull it away, you go long-winded. But I want everybody to be able to introduce yourself to everyone. And we'll go around, you'll each have a comment or question for Dave or Phranq or Jeff or something. We'll just do it up that way and let Dave run it. One of the things that I wanted, you know, there was a campaign at Pork Fest, which is end of June in every summer, and it's 13th. Just had the 13th one in New Hampshire. It's a big Porcupine Freedom Festival, the Free State Project. And there was last year and this year, there was a big push. We had bumper stickers and everything, and people would pick what their favorite was, and it was for what should be the anarchist, you know, we don't give a crap campaign for this presidential cycle. well, it's like, Optimus Prime for president, or, whatever. I mean, it was just having fun. The one that won was, how many of you know what Cthulhu is? You ever heard of Cthulhu? Cthulhu is like a comic character. It's always, I don't even remember who started it, but it is and he has like a spaghetti face like out of, octopus face like out of Pirates of the Caribbean, the captain guy. And it's just, he's the most evil entity in the known universe. Evil.
Last name Clinton.
Yeah. So Cthulhu, the artwork is him standing like this, wearing Better Call Saul uniform or suit. Better Call Saul. He's like, I'm running for office, and sitting there, Cthulhu. Why vote for the lesser of evils? If you're gonna do it. Okay. So that was the favorite. It's like, just get to the police state so we can leave, man. I mean, come on. Which might be an argument for Clinton. And that was what Susan Sarandon was saying. Oh, isn't Trump, if you vote for Trump, then he goes, yeah, we'll get the revolution faster. Let's rock and roll. And I'm saying it's going to, probably happen either way. So, what's the difference? The United Nations you're talking about, the United Nations is just announced a program. They want to put a station in space. So Elon Musk, you're going to Mars. No, we'll beat you to it. You're not allowed to be free anywhere. So the UN doing a space station, I'm not feeling good about that. You're talking about, this has been something that we've known since we were activists in the early 90s. When it went from bulletin boards and you just dial up a modem and the internet was, you communicated with anybody, somebody had a modem, it was Paul Revere Net and Fido Net and Alt News Net and the net. It was, Creator-Net was going already. And it wasn't centralized. It didn't go through internet service providers. It didn't go through Verizon, AT&T, Prism of we copied everything, NSA, we know everything. It didn't used to be that way. Then it went to the World Wide Web. As young activists, when I'm these kids, back in the early 90s, or in our early 30s, it was obvious to us. A lot of these guys were geeks, Jeff's a geek. We could see what was coming. We're going, this is going to be centralized if we rule you Snowden stuff. You still doing YouTube? So I have a Facebook account and the Pinterest and the Twitter and the Tumblr and the Instagram and all that. And we got the Facebook and we have our Twitter, the page, but I don't even look at it. Don't care. Started doing YouTubes, and they go, gig after a while, and Google bought them. They go, I don't know, I heard 5 seconds of Led Zeppelin on your rejoiner. Screw you. So then now we're on Vimeo, but they'll do the same thing sooner or later. So what we've been advocating for years, and it's this close, you hear me talking about it for the last year or so, and it's the decentralized internet is coming, it's going old school again with encryption, and the entire internet is going to be, grandma just pushes the just button of a link on your page on the Common Sense show that goes into the decentralized internet using the same browser, grandma doesn't even know, and they can never take it down. It's decentralized, little pieces encrypted on hard drives all over the world, just like Bitcoin. And you'll have video and audio. So this is happening. There's one called Library, one's called Alexandria, one's called Descent, which is not only can you put stuff up as a whistleblower, but you can get paid in cryptocurrency for doing it because people just support you and nobody knows who you are. What the hell is going to happen then when you don't have to go to Julian Assange, WikiLeaks, or spend some time in an Ecuador embassy in London? You can just do it your freaking self, and it's out on distributed internet. If I got the iPhone of the Zapruder film of Bite Me, then what? We're going to find out. And this is what the bad guys are worried about. That's why they have these trolling armies. Well, we know that. Whenever it was the 08 or the 12 election, we're doing the Levolution. You think I didn't get enough Obama White House trolls run by Holder out of the White House and Attorney General if we got, 13-year-olds that go tell you how it is? This is, we've been setting this up. The whole back end of Freedom's Phoenix was set up for this. So my thing was never the numbers, because I didn't trust them anyway. I knew how many YouTubes I got just from the people. I'm going, and it shows 300? I'll bet it's 30,000. During the Ron Paul stuff, we knew. Ron Paul charts, Ron Paul graphs, Ron Paul. We go, what happened? We're going, yeah? You think they're not going to do it to Trump? This is, what did Trump say? He goes, when he did the contract with the RNC, and I'm going to do it, he goes, I'm not going to let you Ron Paul me. What? He knows. We all know. But the thing is, are you really willing to get off? You go, yeah, but YouTube is mine. My Facebook is mine. No, it doesn't. Read the damn thing. What does it say? All pictures and everything belong to us. My daughter loads up something, and all of a sudden it goes facial recognition. Yeah, confirm, this is this person, this is this person. I'm going, are you freaking kidding me? And they're talking about, oh, someday. Hell, it's on Facebook now. So I'm just, don't even. Then you had Cox Cable. Cox Cable, I've been in for 3 years. I've been doing this. Anyway, it's built up to where I got standing because I know what's happened. I paid the ultimate. I never got, the extra bandwidth, whatever, and we're kind of getting standing lawsuits, and they're here like 3 times a week, and I insist, and I demand, and I want, and they found out who I was, and they knew what I was doing, and they're like, damn. Because what happened is fiber optics is starting to come in. In Europe, they have, like 30 gig downloads. We got like, half of one or something. I mean, it is ridiculous how fast the internet can be, and is in Europe. Here, it's because of little monopolies everywhere, and they are holding, they don't want competition. Well, they're trying to bring fiber optic into ASU or even Tempe area up there, and they're suing the fiber optic company so that Cox can maintain a monopoly. Well, how do I attack them? It's PR, man. I'm building up a case for years. I'm going to file my little claim and suit, get my government number. I'm going to be a butthead, put some signs up, and it's going to get good. Got a lot of history on that, just get ready for it. Here it comes. This is how I roll. Now, what's going to happen is, there was one other thing I wanted to, I gotta do my code and I'll talk at the same time. In here, this is one thing I wanted to share with you guys. I'll just do a little bit of it and have you listen to it. What does a CI do when the bad guys won't, the other guys won't fight you? What do? And this guy went on Charlie Rose or something, openly just said, this is what we're going to do. And I couldn't believe it. Here's a CIA director or somebody, whatever, and I don't care. But let's see if we can get some of this.
I want to go after his presidential car. I want to bomb his offices in the middle of the night. I want to destroy his presidential helicopter. I want to make him think we're coming after him.
It's this policy of taking out the people closest to the leaders that they want to target, with Putin at the very top of the list.
Now, what happened was they, remember when Putin's car driver got hit, the head-on collision in Moscow? This was exactly what this guy was talking about. We're going to make them think. We want them to react. We want them to get afraid. We want them to be, that's why, like Reagan when he was bombing Gaddafi's kids and all that kind of stuff. We want them to feel, we want a third world war. This is what these guys are, because the economics are coming crashing down. We are right at the top again. I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know how they're going to fix it, but it's an economic you need to eat thing. This is what's coming. How prepared are you? The next newspaper that we're doing, they're going to be setting out a table out here and putting stacks of our latest newspaper. It's a like stack of 50 or 100. I mean, take a stack. Let it sit there and you grind. It's a timeless thing. Start passing out. Everybody take a stack. We got just enough probably to get, we got quite a few. We did 15,000. We were only going to do 10. So we paid a little extra because they wanted more. We got probably 5,000 left, and if that. But we'll go ahead and you guys take them. You read it, and it's online. It's interactive with the internet. And we're doing the next one is on prepping, surviving. But it's a positive attitude. And our heroine, she's learning as a kid on the front cover, doing it. And then it progresses, and she gets older and camping. Then her and her family thrive and survive in the after. But there's going to be an after. Sooner than you guys think. All right, we're going to go around to everybody. Go ahead and take the mic up there. Got anything to say? Time's up. No?
The only thing, I don't know if you know or not, you mentioned the FDA pulling something, but that's because they're in bed with Monsanto.
Oh, of course, yeah.
It's very interesting. It's nice hearing you, Dave.
Thank you.
And you're a very interesting man. Ernie is too. I don't know which one.
I took lessons from Ernie.
Okay. He's one.
No fear, no fear.
Dave, Gary Gannon, one thing I'd like you to comment on your website, you've got a quotation. Your children will live in an incinerated world, Secretary of Defense Ashton Carter.
Yeah.
I understand Putin announced today that they will not tolerate any more U.S. airstrikes on Syrian troops. How How fast do you think that's going to come down?
I think it could happen tomorrow. It could be in a couple of years. That's a good point. Ashton Carter did say that your children will
Who's
live,
Ashton Carter?
the defense secretary, said your children will live in an incinerated world. I did a double take. I mean, not much surprises me. That one did. I couldn't believe he was that bold.
No, this CIA thing, you look on Freedom's Phoenix, it's just, what does the CIA do when the other side won't fight? Watch that. It'll scare the crap out of you.
David, a year ago or something, you explained to some of us that your background is doing research and statistics. It'd be nice maybe to let the people know, but also I'm pointing out, my understanding, this whole thing is because of the spiritual side. It is good against evil, and if you read Revelation 13, that's where it's going.
Yeah.
And it won't be stopped. And
I agree with you, David. David used to do my taxes long time ago. But I totally agree with you. We're looking at, well, I go back to what Vance Davis told me about the fight between good and evil, that it's manifested here, and transhumanism is the birth child of this. Yeah, it's, you know, as a Christian, I see the threat. And what does it say in the Bible? That if Jesus doesn't return, we'd all be gone. You know, I don't think that we should sit passively by and wait for the second coming. I think we're commanded as Christians to be active and fight for our faith. And so you're absolutely right about this. This is very much a fight between good and evil. And look at how ironic that Hillary Clinton is a fourth-degree coven witch. How symbolic is that today?
hey, could you give us a background on your statistics and research, which is very high credibility?
He has them.
Remember,
Just briefly, I wrote twice the statistics course that's in use at Real Salado College. I'm no longer with them now. You know, I moved on to another educational institution, paid a little bit more, and hours were better. But yeah, it's my background. It's what I do.
what I'm trying to say is, my impression is, you give them a subject to study, within a week you'll have it nailed down as an authority. That's what I'm trying to.
Thank you.
out.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just really interested to hear. I think everything that you said was important and interesting, but especially confirming what the man was talking about, the altering of our DNA. I've thought of that from, you know, when we hear GMOs, it's like, yeah, if their the DNA of the food is changing, then it's going to change our DNA as well. And I just think that it's ridiculous for FDA or food companies or even drug companies to say that something is healthy without generations of testing, because a lot of things such as that would need several generations to start to potentially see major changes or whatever in human behavior, human lifespan, and things like that. So I just think that I guess more of a comment, just, you know, the idea that they can say GMOs are healthy and after testing it for a few years is just absurd.
You know, one thing, the retrovirus, you need to look on how are they doing it? They got to enter into the cell and bring something and use our cells to change, and that's what that Dr. Judy Mikovits was talking. Man, it's scary as heck. The scientists.
Yuri, I want to say something to what you just said, that it also works on the flip side, two sides of the same coin. Turn it over. doTERRA puts out some really good products, and I'm not affiliated with doTERRA, so this is a totally non-biased statement. But I've had people help me get back to health. In fact, I've gone more to natural health care than modern medicine, as I'm sure a lot of you have. But what did the FDA do with doTERRA? You can't advertise on a website. Not that they restricted them from, you can't use the word cancer or healing or any. They won't even let them advertise their products on a website. So I mean, it tells you right there, there's an agenda, and the agenda is called depopulation.
Yeah, you know, that's what we had a gentleman, a young guy, we call him Billy Kratom. He did a show a year ago. He talked about kratom. It's a tree. It's a leaf in Indonesia, and it had all kinds of, a lot of people. It saved my life. Saved this. Great, wonderful. I love this. You know, do kratom. Well, all of a sudden, you know, we've had some packets in there, and I haven't touched it, and kind of forgot about it, and don't need it, and you know, marijuana does my thing. Okay, so I'm going. Then all of a sudden, the government wants to make it Schedule 1, it's heroin, you're not allowed to have it. I go, what was that stuff? I go, oh man, that must be good. So come to find out, yes it is. And they got a lot of pushback. 47 congressmen signed a petition to them. They want to do a law that change, and they not do it because their constituency is so supportive of this plant that they kind of maybe put a whoa on it, but supposedly went into effect yesterday, the ban. So, I mean, there's your government for you.
Thank you. This gentleman spoke a few minutes ago here in the blue shirt. It's Steve Cohn, good friend of mine, hardcore 9/11 truther. On 9/11, we had 30 people show up at Tempe Beach Park for the morning rally and about 10 people in the afternoon at the Card Stadium. And I have a question for Dave, and that was that, Dave, if Trump loses the election, do you really think it's going to be because of the election is stolen somehow, or do you think it's going to be because Trump's just such a horrible candidate?
Well, you've got a good point on the back end. I mean, he's shooting himself in the foot.
Every day.
Yeah, I agree. Listen, I'm hearing this at home with my wife. She wants him to win in the worst way, but she calls him the self-sabotage candidate, and he is. Now, do I think it's going to be because of theft? Well, let's look at a couple of things. Dead people are already voting now in at least 3 states. You've got 7 million Democrats that are registered to vote in 2 adjacent states. What was it? Trump, and he was correct, 1,800 people who were supposed to be deported for criminal activity were made citizens in time to register. That's what we know about publicly. What's going on behind the scenes that we don't know about. So, yeah, I mean, the people I talk to, and I've had Republicans tell me this, they got to win by 6%, they think, in most elections. Here, I think Trump has to win by 20%. Oh, by the way, good electronic voting machine story here, that Stanford University did a study this last summer with the Democratic primary, and they took a look at exit poll results, and they matched perfectly the states that had paper ballots in the primary. But when there was an electronic voting machine involved, the results 10% to Clinton's favor. And they said, this just can't be an accident, and it gets worse. The 2 owners of the 2 largest electronic voting machines are donators to the Clinton Foundation. I mean, I couldn't think of this stuff to make it up.
You're talking about Diebold and Sierra?
I think that's it.
It used to be Diebold, an election system and software, and they were owned by brothers. They're competing people were brothers. The other thing, we had John Brake. It's enormous. There's a documentary called Fatally Flawed that was done here in Arizona. And John Brake, we had him on. He's been traveling the country on this very issue, and they've proven all kinds of stuff. Well, what happened was in Tucson, election system and software came up, or services, whatever it is, they're election guys. They came in to bid for Tucson, that they went through all these lawsuits and notoriety of what scumbags they are. So nobody else, none of the other companies wanted to even do a bid. Well, ES&S did. They come in, we'll do a bid. We got this great device. It does optical scanning, 400 a minute, and it takes a picture of the paper ballot, puts a barcode number on the image, that's a PDF, and matches it and prints it on the actual physical paper copy. So now you got, a digital certified copy of the paper, so anybody can just get the computer file and do an audit. So they go in, they go, we want to do the audit. It's called Audit AZ. That's what they do. We're going to audit it. We filed in. We're going to audit. Give me the audit. We're going to audit. The county goes, you know what? We paid $800,000 for that machine, but, we chose to turn it off. We just decided not to do the optical scan. Why? Because we don't have to, and screw you. This is how bad it is. Now, Jeff and Phranq and all you activists when he's talking about the sign, in 1994, I ran for Secretary of State. I've run for county recorder twice. I ran for Secretary of State in 2006. And my sign was, big black sign that said, still voting with a question mark. And the V in voting was the V for vendetta. You still voting? And the thing was, that got voted the most popular campaign sign in the election in the newspaper. And they go, what the hell? I'm going, yeah, and that's where the Levolution logo came from, was from that campaign. So I'm telling you, I don't think I know how bad it is. 9th Circuit Court of Appeals challenged 44 election laws of Arizona, yeehaw, just to get them to say it. I just want you to say it. Well, they said it. I know. Now what? The election process is not the cure. It's just the awakening. It's just being able to keep breathing in and out long enough to outlast these guys.
Hi.
Hello.
Are you done?
More than wonderful.
Okay. Anyway, Michael Herzog, The American Awakening. I did a show called The American Awakening for 10 years. Dave invited me to this event. I haven't been on the air for, I don't know, a little over a year. I get a guest spot every now and then. But the reason why I'm here, and the reason why I was provoked to drive all the way across the valley and sit among you people who, by the way, I feel safe with. You know why? Because I know in my heart that Ernie's got a gun in his pocket, okay? But,
Protect all y'all.
but aside from that, and this is my biggest fear, folks, and this is why I asked when the meeting started. I'm way out in the East Valley by myself as a recluse, not on the air anymore, listening to Jones, listening to you, listening to her, listening to a number of other brilliant people that are bringing out all the things that they're planning on doing to us. And my question is this. Number one, what do all of us do when the internet goes down? How do we stay in communication? How do we continue to communicate? Because if I can't communicate with you guys, I crawl under my bed. That's the first thing. And the second thing, and I posed this question when I first showed up here today. What do we do if and when the UN does knock on our door? Is that when we make the decision? And if so, who can we call? Where do we hide? How do we get together? How do we warn each other? These are questions that I think all of us need to be thinking about, okay? And all of us need to come up with some conclusions too. Thank you, Arnie.
Yeah, Bernie, you come to the Breakfast Club more.
Mike, I want to respond to what he said real quick, Ernie. By the time it gets time for the UN troops to show up, the shooting's already started. In fact, if you doubt that, look up UWEX16 and spend some time researching, because there's a lot of whitewash stuff on there out there. Unconventional Warfare Exercise 16. It's an offshoot of Jade Helm 15, so it's Jade Helm 16. And what it is, it's a drill that's going on right now in Texas on 4 military bases, and they're involving foreign troops. They're doing everything from enhanced interrogation to blah, 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 but it's also UN involved. Listen to what they're doing. They are practicing to fight against American units that have deserted and were involved in a guerrilla war. In fact, if you look at the BizOp ads, I mean, they say American guerrilla chieftain, someone to play that role, a crisis actor. So they're already preparing for the fact that we're going to jump ship. And one more thing to what Mike asked me about. If you go to Northern Colorado, I got a good friend up there named Paul Martin from Revolution Radio. He owns a gun range. People come in there and use it regularly. They're the Gurkhas. Who are the Gurkhas? They were trained by the British in Afghanistan to be counter-guerrilla forces. And they're training right now in Northern Colorado. I got pictures of them on my website. The locals in La Platte, Colorado have talked, or La Porte, Colorado have talked to them. They see them. They tell them, hey, we're mercenaries. They admit it. So that's the answer to your question. By the time that happens with the UN, the shooting's already started. The military, a lot of it will defect. And we are going to have one big poop mess of a fight on our hands. But
yeah, for the hat that's going around, people in the Breakfast Club's been around for 40-something years. It's been since '68, and that hat is about that old, I think. So it's passed around. It's what pays for the heaters and more tables and chairs, and Donna gets her hair done or something. You know.
Yeah, I just piggyback off of what Mike said here. I think, you know, I'm new to the club here, and thank you for inviting me. We actually have to leave right after this because I've got somewhere I got to take my kids. But I'm kind of excited to see, you know, other people gathering together like this because it's not normal.
we should do a show on it.
I know, right?
Yeah,
we should. A live one. I'll bring my camera. But it's just great to see, you know, people gathering together who are like-minded, and I think we really need a target plan. So, you know, because freedom isn't free, because it must be fun.
All right, this is where I come in. The Arizona Breakfast Club was criticized for being to eat, meet, and retreat, okay? Or, you know, eat, meet, retreat, whatever is retreating, okay? And it was, you know, everybody was like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? There were so many things that were outside being done. I look around here, a lot of guys that have their own thing. They come here as activists, not for the Breakfast Club, but for their own thing, like what you're doing. What everybody always does is everybody would give me 5 minutes and $5 of their time. Well, if everybody had told me you said that, I wouldn't have any money because it'd go to everybody else. But they want, this is what we or you should do. I got a you shoulds about this high, okay? I'm going, yeah, well, you're chairman of that now. What was it you think we should do? Well, you're Lord God King Bufu, and I give you a business card, okay? So, seriously, you think I didn't do that? As county chairman, I had the power. The only thing I wanted was the ability to make committee heads. So when anybody came up with an idea, we'd be a business card for them. The next meeting, I go, yeah, you're the head of that. Now what? What are you going to do? Everybody wants somebody else to do it. In the barn here, we have 6-head t-shirt maker. We have printing press. We have professional paper cutters. We have the newspaper that we produce. We're making geodesic domes. I got one I just finished. I got to put together this afternoon. Where you see the ones over here on the side. We're in mass production of them now. In 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch, an inch dome. We make rock and roll and chickens and learning how to aquaponic. This is the pond for the aquaponic. We got the mini little house trailer thing that we're doing with the solar backup. Blah 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 blah. Where are you guys? You over here working? Oh, you got a project. You want me to help? You see, my point is everybody gets off their ass and does what they want. Everybody wants you to do what they want you to do. How about you take whatever resources we have and you do what you want to do? That's why the support for David and anybody else here, I created Freedom's Phoenix. They go, Ernie, we should, I go, wow, somebody should create a page where you could do this and post that and do it. Oh, there, somebody did. So do it. So the thing is that there's whenever anybody that's motivated to do something, they see a crowd like this, the first thing they want to do is go get control of that handle. Look at this block of votes or effort or people or activists that I got. No, you don't got. You inspire. There's a bunch, I look around, I see these young guys that, man, they come to you say there's a day we're going to work and kick butt and it's probably not going to be hot that day. Boom, they show up if you got something for them to do, like making these movies. It takes a lot to make 3,000 movies, or 2,000, or however many we did for that program within a couple of days. You got to have a guy that can crack the thing, do this. Sorry, we got duplicators in there. I make 300 to 500 DVDs an hour. I got 15, 20,000 blanks out there waiting for somebody to piss me off. I got these newspapers right there. You want something to do? There, everybody's going to take a stack when they leave here. Start, read them, see if it's something you support or not, and you're going to distribute. Here's some movies, you need some more. Man, don't even start with me about we're going to go to something. We already are. It's what you take on. And I'm telling you, this internet thing, we saw it in the early 90s. As young activists, we're going, whoa, 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 whoa. I even had Paul Schatt, editorial-page editor of the Arizona Republic at the Breakfast Club. There was a big meeting, we had the Moose Lodge, like 200 people in there. And this was like late 90s. And he gets up and he's like, newspaper, in Arizona Republic newspaper. And I asked a question, I go, how many weeks, because I was being a jerk, how many weeks before the internet replaces the printed page? And he goes, you need a conservative editor like me and a conservative paper like the Arizona Republic to tell you what you need to know.
Oh!
Tape, please!
Very nice meeting you.
This is the mentality that these guys have. Oh, you guys got to take on?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go play kids, man.
Lisa, Daryl,
Number
good seeing
one.
you.
10:30 time.
It was nice meeting you.
Bye, dude.
Thanks for coming. Now go before you go over there. Over there.
Website.
Yeah, Lisa, give them your website.
LisaHavenNews.net or FreedomNationNews.net. But
Right.
either or.
LisaHavenNews.net.
Put my name in, you'll find me.
So I want you guys to understand that it's already happening. The Ron Paul evolution that you saw, that all started here in Phoenix. That logo was, from these guys. We just, whip ass. Jeff Greenspan was Southwest coordinator for the Ron Paul campaign. There's all the stuff. I'm telling you, it's already happening. But if you're dependent on their system, on Facebook, on Google, on Yahoo. Yahoo just announced they got 500 million email and personal data hacked from them and didn't tell you about it. This has been going on forever. If you're counting on this, you are mistaken. And a lot of us that know better, we've been doing the decentralized, encrypted stuff since forever because we knew. You guys are going to get all in and we're ready now and it's going to be just in time for them to say thank you and it's theirs.
Oh, my name is Trish and I just recently started listening and I got to Dave Hodges through Lisa Haven, who actually, I think through Alex Jones there was a link or something. But anyway, I'm just kind of here to learn because I'm just getting started. And if you need help, I live 2 miles down the road basically, so I do want to get involved with some help.
You keep up on Freedom's Phoenix, and we have events and things like this. That's always up there. There's always something. But you got to keep on Freedom's Phoenix. Because everybody goes, why didn't you email? I go, look at Freedom's Phoenix, man. I'm not your mother.
I meant some more coffee and things like that.
Yeah, no, I know. But, I mean, we do a lot of that.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Beth, and I started to wake up about 16 years ago, and it was only a couple of years ago that I decided I need to figure out what the hell role I'm going to play in all this. And I'm really excited to be here because I had no idea there was so much power and so much information and so much to learn.
200,000 articles I have on Freedom's Phoenix. 200,000 over 10 years. I mean, in every 200 categories. What category are you interested in? Go there, scare the crap out of you. But you want hope? On the left side, it says Top Tech News. All of the innovation and technology that's going to heal you, inform you.
I'm Bob Stapleton. First of all, there's two questions here. Who are you and what brought you here? Well, now you know who I am. Fine. I'm usually a pretty quiet guy. But I have a couple of things to answer.
You better do it quick, because I'm
going to do it.
tired.
I'm going to do it quick. By the time I was 20 years old, I'd got back from Vietnam, 67, 68, the year of the tet. I was a counterinsurgency specialist in the Marine Corps. We had the highest kill ratio of anybody in the war. We also had the highest loss rate of anybody in the war, 98%, under 1 and 2. I have to tell you, I've done some other things in the short course of my life. I wrote a book. It's on Amazon. I'll plug that. It's called...
1 minute.
All right, 1 minute. That's fine. the General Order, Robert Stapleton. You can look it up. I'm about to launch another one. To answer your question directly, counterinsurgency is what it's all about. I'm a constitutional constructionist. There's no question in my mind. Mr. Jefferson wrote the damn things. Remark was the revolution isn't what happens, the militant activity. That's the symptom of the thing. The revolution is what got you to that. We're already there. The revolution's already been happening. It's just a question of what we're going to do about it. We are both the insurgency and the counterinsurgency. That's my answer to you. You have to learn those skills. And when you learn those skills, even in Vietnam, the people had a network, and they didn't have the internet or any of the rest of that stuff, but they did it, and they won. The Vietnamese won. I'm not saying communists or anybody. I'm saying the Vietnamese got their own country back, resisting the most powerful nations in the world.
You know, resistance is not futile. One thing I got to thank, excuse me for a second, I got to thank Bob.
I have another one.
I'm sorry. I have been looking for that screw for so long. Thank you. I apologize.
You know, Bob, the Vietnamese didn't have one thing that we do. And that's why the end result, I think, I'm optimistic about. They didn't have 300 million handguns to start with. They didn't have estimated 7 million veterans who were able-bodied, who have full combat training. We have a lot of advantages they didn't have, yet they were able to persevere.
Let me finish the thought then.
No, you had a chance. All right.
I am Tommy Taylor, and I came this morning.
I hold, because it's a Bob thing.
I came this morning because I'm interested in what is going to happen to the economy now that the yuan is part of the basket of currencies.
You know, it's hard to know where to start to answer your question because it's not just that could deflate our dollar, and that's certainly a possibility. Deutsche Bank is going to send a tsunami when they crash across the ocean, and it's going to be tied into the credit swap derivatives because they're so commingled with the Wall Street people, and that could cause a big collapse. We've got, $1.5 quadrillion debt in derivatives with a $505 trillion interest rate. So it's kind of like throw something up in the air. The economy's already exploded. The crumbs are falling back to earth. And so it's going to collapse. It's a matter of what's going to be the straw that breaks camel's back and what day is that going to happen. I think it's probably going to happen on a Friday. So they have a Monday or till Monday to restore as much order as they can get. But I don't think we got real long. And I'll tell you, if Trump is ahead in the legitimate polls by more than 15 or 20%, I would not be surprised if it happens before November 8th. Not a prediction, but it wouldn't shock me.
Dave, if the president is just a figurehead, do we want are we holding out some hope in that regard as far as the presidency? I'm so confused about that. I've known for years that that's a figurehead and somebody's not going to make a difference because the powers that be have been there forever and have been waging war on us forever. So I'm just confused about this because I feel like I need to be there for Trump because maybe if there's some last bastion of hope and it's going to delay this 5 years, I'm in. But otherwise, I'm not really sure if that's something. Should I vote? Should I?
Let's
vote?
hurry up and get to the police state so we can leave.
In the old days, before there was a shot clock in basketball, it wasn't unusual to see a far inferior team hold the ball so the other team couldn't score, hoping to force a stalemate. And the election of Trump, let's assume he's 100% sincere. Not much is going to change because, see, this corruption is endemic through all the administrative and civil service positions. It's not just the elected and appointed leaders. It's people who are protected by civil service law we got to be worried about. Trump will get nothing done, at least for 2 years, but what he'll accomplish is a quagmire. Nothing will get done. And see, that's a victory for us because it slows down the inevitable. That's how I see it. It slows down the inevitable.
You know, gridlock is... You know, they used to say in the 90s for libertarians, well, if you guys got in there, there would be gridlock. We're like, good. Well, you know. And the point?
Good morning. My name's Martin. I came about 2.5 hours down from up near Wickiup, where I'm building a survival retreat. I came here to listen to Dave and to meet Lisa, who's already left. I think what was already spoken about us losing the internet will happen sooner rather than later, and probably before we have a good, viable alternative that works, that we can all keep in touch. So I think, well, some of us have already moved on this, and that is getting a ham radio license, learning how to get on the radio, because it's a lot harder and requires a lot more manpower and infinitely more resources for them to track us and thwart our efforts over ham radio than it does just shutting down the net or doing an EMP. So get a ham radio, put it in a Faraday cage, a metal box, so it doesn't get destroyed, learn how to use it, and we should start get our comms going now before we lose the internet. So we have something up and running before the internet goes down.
Bernie, I'd like to, with you, when we have time, we could get together another time. I want to explore with you some of the alternatives you mentioned if the net goes down, because I'm very intrigued by that. And I do agree with you. Everybody can become their own citizen journalist if they have a ham radio. I mean, I don't know what the reach would be.
Yeah, no, this is something we've been looking at. When the World Wide Web went up, we knew this was coming. We were very interested in this in the 90s. You add 20 years to that, and we started checking on the technology now, because even then, you could do what they call packet radio. It's ham radio that you send, all it is about sending ones and zeros. You know, that's all it is. So you send text and email over ham radio. So what happened is we were looking at, we're going, hey man, you got these devices, I can go buy it right now? And go, yeah, you just plug it in here, go do, and I go, really? Well, come on the show, let's talk about it. And they go, this is where the problem is. Now I'll ask you, for me to go get these ham radios and do all this work, do I have to get a license?
Yes. If it's not an emergency situation and the FCC...
When I need to do it, it's going to be an emergency. See, my thing is, when you talk to these people, like, oh no, I went through all the stuff, I got my license, damn it, don't you ever be keying that button and everything and you don't have a license. I got my government-approved license to transmit ones and zeros over radio waves. And I know it, you get indoctrinated in that, you get the license thing. You're talking to anarchist libertarian, I don't give a shit about their license, okay? Can I, yes or no, buy the hardware, set it on this table, push that button and send? Yes, thank you very much, that's all I wanted to know.
Amen.
So the thing is that the guys that come and talk about it, if they have a store and they're coming on my show, they always cancel. Because they know their buddy, even though they may agree with me, they know the man, it's the same thing when we started doing initiatives for concealed carry. The gun stores would not take that petition. They wouldn't touch it because they were afraid of the BATF. And it's the same thing with the ham radio thing. The question is, can you get the equipment to do this? Yes, you can. Do I need a license to do it? No, you don't. Now, they try and scare you, and they're going to triangulate and get you and doing kind of whatever. Yeah, it's all very nice. It's just going to sit over here until I need it. So, yes, we've already been researching this. We know the equipment. You're right. We should talk about that very thing, because you're right. It is going to be the ability for us to communicate encrypted and with text, and it'll start to improve from there. But to think you got to get a government-approved license to do it is the mindset and the psyop they have gotten on you for exactly this reason.
I want to, real quickly.
Thank you for bringing it up, Martin.
Ernie, let me address it. I'd like for the gentleman from WikiUp, I'd like you to send me an email so I can correspond with you. Dave Hodges at thecommonsenseshow.com. Okay?
I'm on your show every day.
All right, great. So, drop me a line.
Hello everyone, my name is Ruben Sanchez. I'm a college student, veteran, and local musician. And I'm here to get inspired and hopefully inspire other people to have the same perception you guys have. That seems to be a good thing.
Yeah, that's good, man. Come here, Al. Well, say I don't have anything to say. You guys say it.
I don't have anything to say.
Okay, that's what I got.
Ruben, we need to see about 5,000 of your closest friends your age.
Amen. Hi, I'm Midge, and I know a lot about what Dave is talking about because I used to be married to someone who is in the New World Order. I grew up in Wickenburg. I know that group that you were fighting. They are now in Wickenburg, causing havoc, trying to take over the town. And so I need to start exposing what I know.
Well, same thing.
You need a place like
Wickenburg houses our favorite restaurant and our nearest movie theater. Dave Hodges at thecommonsenseshow.com. If you drop me a line, I'd like to correspond with you. I'm friends with a lot of people up there. That's where I started my broadcast career.
Okay, Jeff Greenspan promised to be really quick.
How we do secret spying on you with new technology research at ASU. Now, I'm up in Colorado 2 years ago with my son on a golf vacation, visiting family, having fun. I get a call at midnight. We're at Dave & Buster's, closing the place down. And this guy says, I'm so-and-so and so-and-so, and he used all the buzzwords, and I knew I had the real deal. We talked for 2 weeks. He backed out of coming on my show. But what he did tell me, this is interesting, Ernie, ASU's doing research that tracks guys like you and me. They know when we go to the bathroom. Someday when we have time, Ernie, we go to lunch, I'll share all the details.
I'm afraid that, one of my kids or grandkids, I thought my kids might do it, maybe my grandkids, they do a FBI Freedom of Information request on my file, and it's not going to have anything in it, and I'm going to be pissed off. What the hell I got to do, man?
Not working hard enough, then.
Oh, I just want to let y'all know that Yahweh County 2 mega churches got blanketed with materials this last Sunday, and tomorrow they may...
Now, who might have done that?
I don't know. But anyway, there's enough materials here. In 40 minutes, you can do a mega church.
What did you give them?
Every windshield. Just some information. I'll give them a different piece of information every period of time. So.
Okay.
Keith is the 20-something years, ever since I've known him in the early 90s, has every Republican convention, every event, every church, it's Republican, he has a flyer for them. So if you've been there and you got one, it was probably from Keith.
Oh, hi. My name is Michael Mandeville. I'm a general systems scientist. I work on how things work in general dynamic systems. And I take a long historical view on a lot of things. Currently, I'm working on the logic and matrix thought, so to speak, for how to deal with the empire and finally liquidate it. And that's what I'm about.
Cool.
I'm Ed Price, and I just wanted to say that along the hope line that Ernie mentioned a little earlier, Revelation says, in those days men will long to die, but death will elude them. The transhumanism isn't going to work. Or it won't work the way they think, because God always has a way to change things, bring things about the way He wants them, and give us hope.
I agree with the end result of what you said, but that doesn't mean the globalists aren't going to try to harm a lot of us on that path. I mean, I think there's a lot of danger there between now and then.
Frank?
My name is Phranq Ricky, a long-time association with the Breakfast Club. And my observation in recent events that the American people are a lot smarter than the establishments think they are.
The one thing about the Breakfast Club, and Frank, there's a few people that have been here from way back. I started going in the early 90s. And the Breakfast Club, it went from like September to May. It was winter visitor thing. It was retired from the World War II days and the 50s and the Red Scare and God, family, country, that was the Arizona Breakfast Club, started when they retired here in Scottsdale and so on in 1968. And it was really popular. I mean, everybody, Jan Napolitano and Shattuck and Kyle and McCain, everybody had to touchstone with the Arizona Breakfast Club. And what happened is when the internet started hitting about 2000 and so on, they didn't, if you didn't go to the Breakfast Club, you didn't know about it. Well, then it started hitting the internet, and people started going to the internet. They didn't go to the Breakfast Club as much anymore. And it started to wane. And then people started to realize that the internet's starting to go away, and they're controlling that, and they actually need to meet people and come meet Dave. So this is when it started to resurrect itself, and that, I started to, take it over, and, they were very supportive of us doing that. But there was one main thing. We didn't sing this morning, damn it. It's a good time to get acquainted. It's a good time. Yeah, we can do it. It's a good time to know who is sitting right beside you, and to smile and say hello. Goodbye, that lonesome feeling. Goodbye, glassy stare. Here's my hand. My name is blah, 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 blah. Put your hand right there. There, we made up for not singing. Okay. Yeah, I know. But anyway, I wanted to show some enthusiasm. But the thing is that as time has gone on, the actual meeting is starting to pick back up. And I've seen it, and we knew it was coming, and we saw it with the Lovolution, and we saw it with the interest in the 08 and 12 campaign, and we saw it with how much you're not seeing Trump or Hillary bumper stickers or signs as much this election than any other election I've ever seen. They are just, the only thing Trump represents is not Hillary. He is so not Hillary. You know how much he's not Hillary. And I see that is what is the driving force behind this. But it's not going to matter. It's going to be economics and mushroom clouds, because they cannot allow you to start thinking for you. They got to scare you. You're not scared enough. There's a next pandemic that's not scaring you. There's the next race war that's not scaring you. There's Black Lives and whatever the heck that's not scaring you enough. You have the vaccine, whatever's not scaring you. The war's not scaring you. Already Third World War in Syria and going to Russia and the first strike and the nuclear, and we're not going to boink, 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 boink. And you're not paying attention, damn it. Why? Because you're not watching broadcast news anymore. The Olympics, the Olympic what? Nobody said it was our team versus there in the medal count of I kick your ass. And what are we looking for? I want the anarchist guy that has Led Zeppelin as his national anthem, the black flag, a kiss my butt, and I'm the fastest swimmer and bite me. Where's that guy? Then I saw that they had some international athletes, not affiliated. And I'm like, ooh, I got what I want. It was people from torn countries of Yugoslavia that doesn't exist anymore, and he hadn't decided which country he's at. We got a UN, special flag for that guy. So I'm going, and it's going. It's all cracking underneath us. What's the solution? Well, being aware is first thing. Yvonne.
Hi everybody. Good morning. I'm Yvonne Parkhill. And Dave, when I was about 4 or 5 years old, I had a dream about jackbooted thugs breaking in the door and taking us away, and that's 50 years ago, and I see it happening more and more every day, the possibility of that. So, yes.
Why she see it?
Yeah.
Keith already did. You go.
Hello everyone, my name is Jason Price. I'm 21 years old, and
you're not allowed to talk.
No, I started a group called Arizona School Diverse Student Association. Basically, what I do is I go downtown and I talk to high school students, and I tell them, hey, you don't actually need to go to school. There's different options out there. So I basically tell them to leave school and educate themselves. I actually just came from an unschooling conference. If you guys don't know what unschooling is, check it out. It's kind of homeschooling, but it emphasizes not instilling you have to follow my rules and this and that. It's anti-authoritarian. I believe it's the way to raise the next generation of anarchists.
You have a website?
No, if you look up unschooling, it'll blow up all over the place.
I have a website for my organization. It's azsasa.org.
And Phranq.
You have some pretty good chops there singing. I was impressed, actually. A comment and a question. First, the comment. We know that the establishment always moves the goals whenever someone is trying to win some kind of an election. We see that with third parties. They just change the signatures, kind of like what I talked earlier. And we don't see it often with national races. The last time that we saw that was the Ross Perot race. where basically the League of Women Voters used to run that thing. It was an independent group until they refused to kick out Ross Perot, following their own rules, and so therefore both parties kicked out the League of Women Voters, which is why I don't hear about them anymore, and created the Presidential Selection Committee run by both parties. Which is why it doesn't matter what Gary Johnson or anyone gets, they will kick you out. But that's the last time we've seen that kind of move to that degree. If Donald Trump, not to make him the savior here, but if he loses after all of this, the amount of changes of the establishment of both parties, everything from the delegate process, the primaries, everything is going to be changed and ironclad until, like you said, the only way out will be through violence, unfortunately, because our hands will be tied in every way. That's the comment. The question is, both parties obviously are corrupt as far as voter fraud. My question is to you: is which party, if any, has more of a voter fraud than the other? I'm not trying to pick fingers, but I'm wondering: is it really equal, or do you find, since you said the Diebold are owned by or supported by liberals, is it more one or the other? What do you think overall?
You know, they both bend rules, but I think the Republicans do it more through legislative process, and the Democrats just flat cheat. I mean, they do it the criminal way. You know, I call them now that they're the American Stalinist Party. That's what the Democrats are. And I've asked Democrats, and listen, I don't mean to offend anybody, well, maybe I should. Because I ask people, if you can support Hillary Clinton with all that we know she's done, forget the trail of bodies, and she's responsible for Ambassador Stevens and his bodyguard, forget all that. All the criminality she's done, all the treason, selling uranium to the Russians so she can get more money for her presidential race. How can you look at your kids and tell them that they should follow basic rules, family rules, the laws of society, when you're supporting a fourth-degree witch who never obeyed a rule she didn't like in her life? And, you know, I've made a lot of Democrats mad, but I've never had a successful answer to that question. Not one time.
So Trump is better?
He's
a better choice?
Well, I tell you, I hate to use this phrase, Pat. Oh, I hate to use it. The lesser of absolute evils.
Well, why not vote your conscience?
Why choose the lesser of evils?
But why not vote your conscience and vote for somebody like Gary Johnson or Jill Stein? I'm voting for Jill Stein. I voted for Gary Johnson in 2012.
What I think we get with Trump is more of a power block to slow down what's going on. That's my personal view. And maybe I'm wrong. Listen,
Hey,
I'm not voting for Trump because I like him.
I got to make a comment. Well, one, I feel better about myself because I'm not voting. But the no, I tell you, in 2000, I'll tell you the story.
That is a vote. That is a vote.
Absolutely. In 2002, what happened was, in 2002, I went to the ballot, and you do like a check-off box, to-do list. I get milk, take kids, whatever. And I went and voted, checked it off, and I felt worse. That's the only time that I remember doing something I was supposed to do, and I felt worse about doing it. I trust myself. I just go, no, that's the last time. I'm not going to get sucked into this thing again. It doesn't matter if I run for office, but I am not going to get sucked in. I don't give a crap what it says. If you didn't win before the election in changing minds, you already lost. It doesn't matter what the computer says. I don't care. With that attitude, I have a lot more freedom to do what I want and say what I want and have the bigger impact. The one thing about Trump, though, is when Phranq and I are doing the Trump report and so on, and he endorsed Ryan and McCain, and I go, yeah, here we go. He's playing the game. Well, then I had Karen Katowski on. She's a retired lieutenant colonel from the Air Force that was in the Pentagon, and she wrote a lot about, while she was there, on, what Cheney and Rumsfeld were doing, and is on, Colonel Hackworth's site, and on Lou Rockwell she writes a lot. She's really a quality individual. Big Ron Paul supporter, openly libertarian, she had it going on. Well, she was on the show a few weeks ago, and she said, yeah, we got to get, not Hillary. I mean, this is, if we want to not have thermonuclear war, we're probably better off. We need some Trump. Got to get some Trump. Well, then, all of a sudden, Trump had bringing into this campaign Woolsey. Well, Woolsey was, CIA director or something in the mid-'90s, and then he's, big Iraq war got to have in the Bush administration, and she goes, oh, hell no. But still Trump over Hillary. So in foreign policy, it's such an anti-Hillary thing that's going on. How do they combat that? They just have to use enough media and celebrities just to plant doubt in your mind, because they don't have to convince you. They just have to confuse you. They just have to convince you that your neighbors are stupid, that your neighbors are dumb, that your neighbors are voting for it. They just go, you'll be the only one that knew what was going on. I can't believe you did, and oh my God, but everybody else was stupid. I have for a long time, for decades, have been of the opinion that the American people is not as stupid as they think. And when you see these younger guys here actually out and active and doing stuff, you'll see they're not either. They know, probably more than you. That's why they're not paying attention. It's not that they're not paying attention. They just freaking don't. This is not representative of what's going to be an impact on their life and their children. So I encourage you to spend time and say, I'm going to let David kind of wrap it up and say whatever he wants to say. Alan, do you want to say anything? I want to make sure that you get to meet with him and say what's up and just hang as long as you want. But it was a good meeting. Yeah. Thank you for coming, Dave. And please just give us the last, whatever you want to go to your website or something.
Well, I want to tell you, it's just always a privilege and a pleasure to come here and share with you guys. I wish we could come more often. My wife was even supposed to be here today, but things go. But anyway, long story short, Ernie, thanks for having me out. This is where it starts. We need to win converts. We need to educate people. But the biggest thing I'd leave you with, and the promotion of the website and stuff, that's fine. You can find me if you need to find me. But I want to really encourage all of you to share with people to get ready. Because when the economy comes down and there's no just-in-time delivery, they're not going to have access to food, they're not going to get their prescriptions, people need to stock up. And with prescriptions, you can always go natural, and you can stock up that way. But I think we need to encourage everyone we know that they need to have the food, water, gold for someday when the smoke clears, guns and ammo, and alliances of people in their neighborhood. I'm lucky. I got people out by me who are well armed, and we know what the New World Order is about, and we know that when they come to our area that they're going to have a fight on their hands. So this is what we need to build, and that's what I would encourage all of you to do, is to promote awareness. This is why I'd like to talk to you about the ham radio issue, because it's another way to reach people so people can be independent. Ernie, I remember one thing you said when we used to meet over at Coco's in Paradise Valley. You were talking about how bad the economy was getting, and this is right before the bailouts and how it was going to crash. And if you were going to eat, you might have to cross that line and be in the equivalent of a FEMA camp. Well, Ernie was right. He said it 8 or 9 years too early, because those days are upon us right now. And I'll just leave you this final thought. If you don't think they're making impromptu FEMA camps, just look at what they do with abandoned strip malls now when they're going in. And people send me these pictures every day from across the country. Also in London, England, around the countryside there. On strip malls, they're putting guard towers. And I've asked architects to look at it. If you go down to that Tucson mall in Marana they just built off I-10, they got guard towers on every point of there. And I'm thinking, why would you have this? And I've had architects look at it. They won't go public because they want the work. So they don't want to drive away people, but they tell me it's too expensive, it's not aesthetically pleasing, and then the NBA, NFL, all the major league sports have all signed agreements with DHS to allow their facilities to be used as holding facilities, 2012. So, guys, the time is, the other side is prepared, they've organized, and we got to make sure that we let as many people know that if you can stay in your home and wait it out, and you have food, you have water, you might have a chance to survive. So anyway, if Hillary gets elected, I'm going into hiding. Pat, I'll come stay at your place. Thanks, Ernie.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming.
Time for Phranq now? Ernie?
Oh, yeah.
Phranq, thank you.
Oh, Phranq, you going to give us the winners?
Okay, great. Thanks.
Phranq's got to give us the raffle winners.
Actually, I wanted to talk to her as well.
Back then.
Sometimes just rest.
Raffle winners.
We have some raffle here. The books are on the table back there. The first one is, I got to put my glasses on here. 8136. 8136. Okay, and this is the standby one then for that one.
You gotta be here to win.
8146. 8146. Okay, give them away today.
Next.
8124.
Closer.
8124. Do we have an 8124? Your chest is the book's back there on the table.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. 8134. 8134. I'm out of tickets.
I'll give you a number.
Hang on a minute, I'll get some more. They're back on the back table.
Can you get one more winner?
Two more. We need two more winners, man.
I'll just give you the numbers to call out. What's the t-shirt symbol?
You know what? It's a game character. My wife got the t-shirt for me at a yard sale. And we had no idea what it was. We were in a bike shop, bicycle shop. The guy says, "Oh man, I love that shirt, man. I play that game all the time." I said, "What's up with it?" He goes, "Oh, I think it's called Lords of Leisure." He pops it up, literally in a few seconds. He pops it up. There's some game. I don't play games. I don't know anything about it. But evidently, this is a character in a game. Okay, Phranq, let him rip, buddy.
All right, how about 8143?
Probably a good idea to get Phranq.
8143.
Oh, that's me.
All right. We got one? All right. Yeah, go ahead. One more.
One more.
8133.
Wow.
8133.
I wouldn't believe about it so much.
We got one. All right. That's it for today.
Yeah.
Did we have fun today? I tell my kids, if you're not having fun, you're not doing it right. So we'll see you, I guess, next month, first Saturday of the month, where watch your Freedom's Phoenix, Arizona Breakfast Club website to where, what, when, and how. And have a good one.
Thanks, Phranq.
See you later.
All right, buddy.